for tonight's 12-round heavyweight main event. Ring officials have been assigned here by the New York State Athletic Commission, James A. Farley, Jr., Chairman. The judges, Tony Castellano and Artie Idella. The timekeeper is Donatello. The referee for tonight's 12-round main event is Harold Fowler. Introducing the principals in this contest from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, former heavyweight champion of the world. He weighs 224.5 pounds, Smokin' Joe Frazier. His opponent this evening, from Marshall, Texas, former heavyweight champion of the world, 224.5 pounds, George Foreman. 12 rounds, main event of the evening.
Well, how about that? The boos for George Foreman. The crowd clearly in favor of the Philadelphia fighter, Joe Frazier. Joe, very popular champion. While the referee is giving the final instructions, we'll tell you that this fight is sanctioned by the New York State Athletic Commission. 10-point must system. 3 judges score the fight. No standing 8 counts. 3 knockdown rule is in effect, and only the referee can stop the fight. We're just about set to go from the Nassau Coliseum here on Long Island. Joe Frazier, former champ, against George Foreman in the red trunks. Coming up to round 1, I'm Bob Sheridan. Glad that you can be with us from Long Island, New York, for another terrific 12-round heavyweight battle featuring 2 former world champions. Look at Smokin' Joe, record of 32-3, 27 KOs. George Foreman, 42-1, his only loss in Zaire to Muhammad Ali. In the first fight, when these guys fought down in Jamaica, it was a disaster for Joe Frazier, who came into the title defense, a 3-1 favorite, and he got knocked down 6 times in the fight and knocked out in the second round. A brilliant victory and a big upset for George Foreman. This one's a different story. Both guys have taken different tracks to get here. A very difficult fight in Manila for Joe his last time out, and that's what this fight will tell the story. How much longer can the career of Joe Frazier go? Even though he and Ali fought so well in that fight in Manila, for Joe, it was just a very difficult fight. Ended up in the hospital after that, and you question his conditioning and how sharp he can be for this one. For George Foreman, well, it's a different sort of battle. It was that big battle with Ron Lyle a few months ago when both of them were knocked down several times during the course of that fight in a big slugfest, and you wonder just how long these fighters can go when they get involved in big wars like that. Remember, you don't measure the age of fighters chronologically like you do in the boxing ring. It depends on how many tough fights. So look at Joe taking the shots again. He's using a little bit of that rope-a-dope that Ali used in Zaire, but it's not working because George is able to land some punches there. Joe's not looking in tremendous shape, but the fact of the matter is, again, I go back to what I said before, the difficult fight that he had in Manila, I think, is much more significant and much more telling than the fact that he doesn't look physically in great shape. At this age, you know, at 32, you wouldn't expect him to look as good as the 27-year-old in the prime of his life in George Foreman. Both guys are still dangerous because both guys can still bang. We're just in round 1. Joe Frazier not landing much here. About a minute to go here in the first round from the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. Joe Frazier in the white trunks, George Foreman, Big George, and his red trunks with the white trim and the blue around the middle.
How many seconds?
George just clubs this guy. He's so strong.
25. 20. Let me know when it's 5 seconds.
37 of Foreman's first 40 professional fights ended in knockouts. Just brute strength this guy has. Very disappointed in losing the title to Ali and thinks he can get it back. Who knows? And Joe trying to do what he can do, but it's so difficult when you're fighting a guy that's about 4 inches taller. Even though their weight's the same, he's giving away about 7 inches in reach to to Foreman, and it's tough for Joe to get through. I mean, Joe's a great boxer, but as the bell ends round number 1, you notice Joe is not throwing as many punches as he has earlier in his career. All right, Bob Sheridan back here for the start of round number 2. George Foreman and Joe Frazier, 2 former world champs, doing battle again this evening at the Nassau County Coliseum here in Long Island, New York. Joe trying to pick up the pace a little bit more here. It was George's first round. Joe lands one of the few punches he's landed so far in the fight, a looping right hand. He's got to do more than that. He's got to get busy. Again, you notice that Joe, earlier in his career, that head was bobbing, a lot of movement, a lot of lunging left hooks. This is what Joe needs to do, and Joe just doesn't seem to be able to do it after that really vicious fight. And I keep bringing it up in Zaire because both, not in Zaire, but in Manila, both of those guys worked so hard in that fight, expended so much energy and got hurt so badly in the fight that you wonder if Joe will ever be the same. And from the looks of him right now, I doubt if he ever can be. George, on the other hand, looks like he's recovered totally from his brutal war with Ron Lyle and his difficult loss to Muhammad Ali. George looks fairly sharp. Big left hook by Joe. So just as I'm comfortably discussing George Foreman, Joe Frazier lands a left hook. The problem is Joe Frazier's left hook on the body, the huge body of George Foreman, doesn't take the same toll as it does on other fighters. Here's what Joe needs to do, all of his trunk movement. But he used to be able to do that for 3 solid minutes. He gets through with the left hook, and look at George doesn't seem to take any toll of it at all. Of course, George has his problems in late rounds in fights. George does well usually and is able to knock guys down with just brute strength in the first 2, 3, 4 rounds. And you get into the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round with George, and you got a shot. You take a look at the first few fights up to about fight number 20, George was whacking everybody out inside at 3. But then again, so was Frazier because of the type of competition. But right now, you get 2 former world champs trying to get one final world title shot in their various and individual careers. Under a minute to go now, and this is the 2nd round. Foreman won the 1st round. Joe Frazier having a better 2nd round, but I think the heavier blows are being landed by George here in the 2nd round. George, look at these shots here. Joe showing more trunk movement, making George miss more, and he has landed about 4 or 5 good left hooks, but that's all he's done. He's not following it up with the right hand at all. Meanwhile, that clubbing jab of George is very effective. He's going to throw more right hands. See that kind of lazy right hand by George? I'll tell you, coming off that huge body of his and those huge arms, that hurts. He digs to the body, backs Joe up. Joe doesn't want to stay here in the ropes. It's not a good idea. There'll be no rope-a-dope tonight. Look at them trading punches. There's the bell ending round number 2. All right, so in the corner now, Joe Frazier. And you see them working on him in there. Yancey Durham, Sandy Sadler. His son, Marvis, is also down below in the corner. Archie Moore works the corner sometimes. Born in South Carolina. His home, as you know, has been in Philadelphia for many years now. And at his heaviest ever, 224.5 at age 32. How much longer can this guy go? He's totally ineffective in round number 1. Had a better 2nd round, but I thought George Foreman landed the heavier blows, and I gave it to George. Of course, the official judges will be doing the scoring here at the Nassau County Coliseum here in Long Island, New York. Bob Sheridan here. Glad that you can be with us. 2 great former champs doing battle. George Foreman, Joe Frazier. Here we go. Round number 3. Nassau Coliseum. Foreman in the red trunks. Joe Frazier in the white trunks. One of the two guys that Muhammad Ali has had trouble with in Joe Frazier. And he was able to beat Foreman, and Foreman was able to destroy Frazier. How do you figure it? It just doesn't go that way in the heavyweight division. On any given night, the top 4 or 5 guys, including these two, Ali and Kenny Norton, up-and-coming Larry Holmes, these guys are great fighters. Look at Joe getting through a little bit more here in this, the 3rd round. But George, oh, nice body shot by George. Big George Foreman looking to drop a big right hand. So far, he's thrown his right hand from his hip. What he's got to do is get up on his toes and go straight like that with a right hand. There's a nice left by George Foreman. Now George is punching with authority. Joe able to back him up. Some of these are borderline low blows. Referee hasn't said anything, Harold Powell. Nice shots here by George. Oh, he's hurting Joe now. Joe's taking a lot of headshots. He goes to covering up, but he's standing still. Joe's got to get out of that corner. Oh, big right hand again. Clips Joe on the left ear. Look at George just teeing off. If Joe has any idea of making this guy wear down by taking shots like this, it won't work. Look at this. Left hand, left hand, left hand, then the big right. Bangs him with the left, jabs the forehead, pounds his nose, misses with the right hand. Joe can't hold him off at all. Walking right through anything Joe does. Every once in a while, Joe will lunge and get a left jab through, but it doesn't take any effect. This is a straight left by Joe Frazier. It's not working tonight for Joe. I can tell you that right now. Well into the 3rd round here. Foreman, oh, nice stiff. That's a punch. Look at this. Spins ahead with a left hook. Wow, about a minute to go in this round, and George Foreman having it all his way. This is his best round so far. Look at the legs of Joe Frazier already in the 3rd round. They look like there's lead in the knees. See him plodding now? Not up on his toes at all. Another left hook throw. That one whistles past the nose. Another one grazes the nose. Misses with the right hand, does George. Light right hand that time. Now he tries to spin and get him off balance. And referee Harold Ball says, hey, watch it, George. Keep it clean. In the 3rd round, and it's been all Foreman in this 3rd round. George won the first 2, but this 3rd round, he's punishing Joe Frazier. You hate to see a great former champ like Joe go out like this, I'll tell you. Closing seconds now, this, the 3rd round, a George Foreman round all the way. There's the bell, ending round 3. With round number 4, Bob Sheridan back here with George Foreman, Joe Frazier, 2 great heavyweights. We're at the Nassau County Coliseum in Long Island, New York. Foreman in his red trunks, Joe Frazier in white with gold. It's been Foreman throughout the first 3, but especially the 3rd round. George very, very effective, landing heavier blows and landing more blows. Both guys have real good sweat worked up. Gil Clancy's done a nice job in the corner of George Foreman, and Yank Durham, Sandy Sadler, and the whole crew that takes care of Joe Frazier, doing a nice job with him. For Joe, we're watching the tail end of his career now. For George, Lord only knows what way his career will go, but it's going to be interesting to see how this fight goes, because George is really beginning to take command, in my opinion. Backs him off with the right hand again. Every time Joe Frazier gets cut back on the ropes like this, George just tees off on him. He's not going to have any part of that rope-a-dope stuff that happened in Zaire. When he gets a guy up against the ropes, he's going to make his punches count. And you can notice that instead of just flailing away, watch how accurate he is here with Joe up against the ropes. Joe trying to come off and land a left hand. You see, he's taking his time. He's not allowing himself to punch himself out. Nice shot there. This time he kind of held on to the right ear of Joe with the left hand and pounded him with the right hand. George needs to throw more straight right hands and more overhand rights to really slow Joe Frazier down. Joe's coming forward, continues to be the aggressor. Notice how the crowd gets into it. Anytime Joe Frazier does anything. Big partisan crowd here in favor of Joe Frazier. And we're not in Philadelphia, folks. We're in Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York City. They love their boxing here in the state of New York. What a fine job the New York State Athletic Commission does. About a minute left in round number 4. This, don't forget, is scheduled for 12. Many people don't think it's going to go the distance because of the size of these fighters. and the way both of these guys can hit. Joe with a desperation, wild left hand that time. And the clubbing George Foreman continues to build up points as he whacks away at the head, the trunk, and the body of the former great champion Joe Frazier. Joe's already done better in this fight getting into the 4th round than he did in Kingston. A lot of people question whether George Foreman's conditioning is great, but the fact of the matter is he's coming off a very difficult fight too against that Ron Lyle. And both of those guys, I think there were 8 knockdowns in the first few rounds of that fight, and finally Foreman knocked out Ron Lyle, the Denver fella that is mighty strong and mighty big. Look at these shots. Every time Joe gets one through in the closing seconds of round 4, they love him here in Long Island, New York. Joe Frazier, George Foreman. Wow. All right, here we go with round number 5. Nassau County Coliseum in Long Island, New York. George Foreman, Joe Frazier. I'm Bob Sheridan. Glad that you can be with us for this one. This is a terrific fight so far if you enjoy watching 2 former real big heavyweight champions. Frazier as big as he's ever been, and you question just what kind of condition he is in. And I'm talking about his overall condition, not just his physical condition of the body, because he took so many punches in that fight against Muhammad Ali in Manila. George Foreman, we questioned his conditioning coming into the fight because he took so many shots and vicious shots from Ron Lyle in his last fight. So far, it's all George Foreman, and it apparently is continuing that way here in the 5th round. Look at these body shots. You heard Gil Clancy a bit say just before the round began, don't be pushing that jab, snap it, and that's what he's doing, and that's making a key difference. If the 4th round was more or less even, George definitely won the first 3, but here in the 5th round, George is taking command again. Uppercut lands, right hand lands behind the ear of Frazier. Frazier tries to fight back. He's got such a big heart. And look at these big clubbing punches. And that's all you can call them, is like big clubbing punches. That one he really got into. Again, Gil Clancy doesn't want him pushing his left hand. He wants him snapping it. And he started doing that, and now he's throwing more right hands. I think George Foreman wants to end this thing as soon as he can, because he's looking a little bit fatigued, and he's throwing so many punches and big wide punches that he can get arm weary if the fight goes into the 6th, 7th, 8th round. He would really like that. Oh, good shot. That was a tough one on the chin, and bounced the head back in about 3 good heavy blows by George Foreman. Oh, that one got Joe, and down he goes. He'll be able to get up. He'll take the standing 8 count. It's up to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and now finally the standing 8 count. I don't think it's going to last much longer as George moves in, and he knows he can hurt him now. Big left hand again, big right hand. Look at him trying to fight back. His legs are gone. George catches him with a big left hook, and the right uppercut floors him again. Look at him crouched in the corner. Former great champion, lasted longer this time. It's up to 6 and 7. Joe won't be able to continue. It's at 8. The referee, Harold Follow, takes a real good look at him. And I think he's going to say that's it. And he does. It's all over. George Foreman proves that he can handle Joe Frazier for the 2nd time. Joe, as you can see, still out on his feet, so the referee definitely made the right decision. And the people that work the corner of Joe Frazier have got to start asking themselves, how much longer can this former great champion go on?